The following audio presentation is a production of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, in association with the Division of Continuing Studies and the Institute on Ethnicity, Culture, and the Modern Experience. This production was originally funded by the New Jersey Historical Commission and has been remastered by the Rutgers ITV studio.
Conventional wisdom holds that the first baseball game ever played was organized by Abner Doubleday in Cooperstown, New York. But according to Jim DeClerico, author of a book called The Jersey Game, it all depends on how you define the word organized.
The question is, who set down the rules and who first played by those rules? And we think the evidence is overwhelming that people from the New York Knickerbockers Baseball Club, including Alexander Cartwright, first set down those rules and first played a game by those rules, and that happened to be on the Elysian Fields in Hoboken, New Jersey in October 1845.
If the birthplace of baseball is the source of some debate, New Jersey's prominence in the early development of the game is indisputable. Take, for example, the case of an obscure team from South Jersey that would later become one of the most beloved franchises in baseball history.
There was a team back in the 1880s called the Camden Merits, which was a professional team. And this was a team that was an artistic success but a financial failure, and the owners finally decided to sell the team, and they kind of put it up for auction. But a couple of guys from Brooklyn who had a team that was just the opposite, an artistic flop and a financial success, came down and bought the entire team, brought them up to Brooklyn. And I think you can see where I'm going with this. This is the team that eventually became the Brooklyn Dodgers.
There were other outstanding baseball teams that called New Jersey home: the Trenton Giants, the Jersey City Little Giants, and two perennial contenders in the Negro Leagues, the Atlantic City Backrocks and the Newark Eagles. But the jewel in the crown, New Jersey's most storied baseball franchise, the number one farm team of the New York Yankees, was the Newark Bears. And the only real question in the minds of longtime New Jersey baseball fans is which team was better, the 1932 Newark Bears or the 1937 Newark Bears. Noted New Jersey historian John Cunningham.
Baseball fans and people who know the Newark Bears, follow the Newark Bears, argue over whether the 37 team was the greatest of all or whether the 32 team was. Now, the 32 team had a lot of solid established ball players like Red Rolfe and people of that sort. The 37 team, however, in spring training was lackluster. They came north, and it was believed they wouldn't be very good. But they had a kid named Charlie Keller, and that was the difference. He was just out of the University of Maryland, left-handed hitter, about 5'10", and chunky, and he could whale the ball. He batted over .350 that year and hit homers. He was up with the Yanks in a couple of years.
A lot of Newark Bears moved up with the New York Yankees, to the point where the rosters of several World Series championship teams were dominated by the likes of Red Rolfe, Charlie Keller, and other stars who honed their skills with the Newark Bears.
About 20 of that 1937 team went to play for the Yankees or other teams. They had a great farm system in those days.
In the 1930s and 40s, baseball in Newark was more than a pastime. It was almost a civic event, as Jim DeClerico explains.
My impression, and I never attended a Bears game at Ruppert Stadium, but my impression was that it was a lot like Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. The Bears drew huge crowds. The pictures I've seen of the stands always seemed to be very full. They had great opening days with parades. I think it was a very successful franchise, not only artistically but also financially.
The Newark Bears of the 1930s were not the only dominant team in New Jersey's largest city. The Newark Eagles of the 1940s may have been the best team in the history of the Negro Leagues. John Cunningham recalls those halcyon days.
It was Effa Manley, a Newark woman, who pulled the Eagles together. They played in Ruppert Stadium in Newark, and they were so good that they attracted very large white audiences, nearly all white audiences. They were, in 1946, recognized as the top black baseball team in the country. And from that team, players went up. Larry Doby, who just recently was initiated into Hall of Fame. Don Newcomb, a pitcher who pitched for the Dodgers later.
But the best of them all, according to Cunningham, was a local kid who could do it all.
I think the greatest baseball player New Jersey ever produced was Monte Irvin, who went to the New York Giants. When he was a youngster at Orange High School, he was impossible to put out. He could pitch, he could field, he could hit. I think he likely was a better ball player than Jackie Robinson. And when he became a major leaguer, he actually out-hit Jackie Robinson.
Another outstanding player for the Newark Eagles never made it to the major leagues. If he'd been a little younger, or if the major leagues had integrated earlier, Charles Biot might have followed in the footsteps of Monte Irvin and Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby. Instead, he recalls the futility of even thinking about making it to the big leagues.
We used to kid about it. Hey, black boy, maybe someday you'll get to ride with the white kids, like we laugh about it. Not in our lifetime. We'll never see this happen. And we really were serious about it because we didn't see nowhere someday that you see Jackie Robinson in the major leagues. Why, that was almost an impossibility.
And even after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, what Biot recalls were some very difficult times for his former Newark Eagles teammates.
When Larry Doby went in, which was 1948, right after Jackie, he went into the Cleveland club room and he stuck his hand out to shake hands with some of the Cleveland ball players. And they wouldn't even shake, turn their back. This is not real long ago, in 1948.
The integration of baseball would eventually doom the Negro Leagues, and the migration of New Jersey's population from its cities to its suburbs would ultimately doom the Newark Bears. Today, however, there's renewed interest in professional baseball in the Garden State, with successful franchises in Trenton, Atlantic City, Somerset, and Sussex counties, and with plans afoot to field a new Newark Bears team in a new stadium to be built in the future. What better way to celebrate America's pastime than bringing it back to the state where it all began, New Jersey. I'm Rick Sinding for New Jersey Times.